All right, so today we're going to talk about how to get the most out of Westlaw, and I'm just going to be explaining how to find and cite relevant cases to make your research just a little bit easier. Because Westlaw is very helpful and it has a lot to offer, but it can be overwhelming if you don't know how to research properly. So we're going to talk about terms and connectors. The first one we're going to discuss is the ampersand, also known as the and sign. So what this does is it finds the first term in the same document as the second term. So if I were to do just school and physical and no other modifications, it's going to find every single case that has school in the same document as physical. As you can imagine, this is going to yield so many results. The ampersand is probably not as effective to use alone, but lucky for us, you can combine the connectors and terms. And so what we're doing here is just that. The /s is finding something in the same sentence as the first term. So if we were to do just physical /s punishment, it would be finding the word physical in the same sentence as the word punishment. And so we're going to use that phrase in combination with the ampersand. So it's going to find every case that has physical in the same sentence as punishment, and school has to be somewhere in that document. And why we're doing that is because we're looking for cases about schools physically punishing the children and as disciplinary action. And so what this search yielded was 151 results. We can see that right here. And that is pretty broad, but that's not a problem necessarily if you are just starting out. It is completely okay and probably a good thing to get 150 to 200 results so that you don't limit too many things. Once you start specializing and figuring out exactly what you want, you can really hone in on that search result. But it did pull up Pinner versus Lanier, which is going to be our first, just going to be the case we're working on today. And just a brief overview of what this case is. A mother is suing the school because the school physically disciplined her child even though she asked them not to. And this was in the 90s when this was more of a problem. So the next term in connectors that we're going over is the /p, which is finding the first term in the same paragraph as the second term. We're going to use this in combination with the quotation marks. And what quotation marks do is it keeps two words together. So let's take just corporal punishment right here. Without the quotation marks, it would pull up all documents with corporal or with punishment. And that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for the phrase, the term corporal punishment, because what that means is physically disciplining someone. And so that's what we're looking for. And then we're going to use in the same paragraph as teacher. And this is going to keep us in the academic and the school environment. And this was a really, really good search term because not only did it pull up Pinner versus Lanier, which was the case that we are looking for, it also only resulted in 18 results. So this was a really good way to narrow it down. 18 is the ideal number, because if you go too specific with your searches, then you're going to get a lot of false negatives and you're missing out on a lot of relevant information, and you could end up with like 0 or 1 right here, which isn't helpful at all. But if you make it too broad, then you are going to get overwhelmed with potentially thousands and thousands of cases. So 18, you can easily look through all of those and really get all of the information from them. Next, we are going to use 3 connectors at once. It's going to seem a little bit daunting, but it's not, don't worry. The first one is /n, and n is just a variable for any number. What that does is it takes the first term and it finds it in however many words you select as the second term. It's like the sentence and paragraph, but you can customize it and make it as specific or as vague as you want. Parentheses just keep search terms together, but not necessarily searched together. It'll make more sense in a second. The root expander is an exclamation point, and what it does is it allows the search results to come up with anything that is in the base and anything added on. So let's look at how this applies to us. So first up, we have punish with our root expander right here. And what this is going to turn up is it's going to turn up punished, punishing, punisher, all of those terms. And that way we're not limiting ourselves and getting too many false negatives. And then we're going to use this one right here, and we're going to find any of those punishings within 10 words of teacher, handbook, principle, or policy. And all of these words are in parentheses because if it wasn't, it would just be punishment within 10 words of teacher. And that's not what we're looking for, because once again, that's going to be too many false negatives and also really broad. So we are looking for any of these 4 things. And notice these are all, once again, school related and just keeps us in that same domain. Now this search term was far too broad. It was 358 results, which you cannot reasonably get past. So what you can do from here is limit it. So if you were looking for cases where the handbook or the school policy either allowed the punishment to happen or was against it, whichever one you want to look at, you could remove teacher and remove principal, and they would only come up with handbook and policy, which would limit this down a lot. The last one that we haven't talked about yet is the universal character, which is an asterisk. And you put the asterisk in the place of any letter in a word. So this is really useful when there's a lot of different forms of a term. So for example, if you're looking up drunk driving, it will pull up drink, drank, drunk, all of those things. And if you use that in combination with the exclamation point, the root modifier, it would come up with drinking, drunk, drunken, all of those things. And then I also used quotation marks and the ampersand. So let's look at the search term that I came up with. So once again, I wanted to keep corporal punishment in here because that is clearly turning up the cases that we want. It is very repeated in our specific case. So we're going to go and keep that together. And we're going to put this in the same document as court, hold, held, holding, all of those things. And court hold, you may ask yourself, it doesn't have to do with our specific case. So this is actually really helpful in speeding up the process. So if you already have the information that you need and you just want to look at the laws or specific cases that were cited for the decision, what it's going to do is it's going to pull up, it's going to highlight it. So if your case was like 25 pages long and you just wanted to see what the court held, what decision it held from previous cases, it'll highlight it. You can just scroll right down there and go from there. What you can also do is it will highlight it in every case. So you can take our case, for example, see what laws it cited, and then go to a different case and see if it cited the same law, which would back up your theory and make it stronger. Or you could also potentially get more cases that you can build on. And so this came up with 48 results, which is a good search term, which is a good amount. It's not too much and it's not too little, especially if you're just using it for that quick highlight tool. All right, so now you have found the case of your dreams, you have all the information, you're ready to write your report. You still have to cite your cases though, so let's look at an example of how to do that. We're going to use the case State v. Owens. So you're going to start out with the title, and then you're going to make sure to underline it. In citations, there's a lot of very specific things that go into making it correctly formatted. So you'll notice here it is underlined just to the end of Owens, not the comma, and it won't be for the rest of the citation. It is very important that you stop right there. Next is the reporter volume. This was in the 20th volume of the reporter. What the reporter was titled, which is the Southwest. The reporter edition. This is the 3rd edition. Now, something I want to point out right here is Southwest is abbreviated, and you can see the abbreviations for other reporters in Westlaw. They do have a list. And another thing that I want to point out is there is a space here, there's a space here, but there is no space here, and that is very crucial. Do not put a space here, pay extra attention to that. And third is abbreviated 3D instead of 3RD as we're used to. Next is the page number that the case starts at. So cases are often very long and several pages, and so you want to do just the one that it starts at. So ideally, if you were to go to the Southwest Reporter and the 20th volume of the 3rd edition and turn to 634, bam, our case would pop up right at the start and you could research from there. Next, we are going to put in parentheses, once again, very important, the deciding court. So, for example, this case was decided in Tennessee and we abbreviated it like this. Once again, a list of abbreviations is available in Westlaw if you're not sure about it. And then the year it was decided. Decided is key here because cases often take several years. They are appealed, they start, they stop, and so it's important to do just the year it was decided. Not the month, not the day, just the year. All right, now that we have learned all of this, we're going to apply it to our current case. All right, so Pinner v. Lanier is our case title. And if you want to know where to find that, we have our case right here, and Pinner v. Lanier is going to be in the top left corner. This is how it's going to be written in the citation. It is also available right here, clearly, and Pinner and Lanier is all caps, which is very important. And it is also important to note that you do not include this whole title, just the last names. Next, we're going to do the reporter volume, title, edition, and page number. And this seems like a lot of information to cover in one slide, but I promise it's not. And it is going to be right here and right here. And so Westlaw already did it for you, so all you have to do is copy and paste. You'll notice, though, that this is a different case than the one that we are citing. And this is because I forgot to check if the one that we are working on currently was reported in a specific journal or if it was just on Westlaw, which is something that you need to check really early on. But because I found out so late in the process, I decided that I would just use this case to show you. All right, and the last two things that we are looking for is our parentheses, which is our jurisdiction and the year it was decided. And this is going to be the easiest one to find. Here, right here, is the Court of Appeals in Tennessee. All we're going to put is TENN period. It's also right here. And the date is right here up top. A lot of your citation information is going to be right here. But we're not going to put the month or the day, just the year. It's also here and here. Thank you so much for listening and watching my presentation. I know it seems overwhelming, but I hope I helped you understand Westlaw a little bit better and maybe make your research a little less frustrating in the future.